My mother stood up at Christmas dinner, wine glass in hand, and announced to the entire family gathered at our house in Boston, "Well, at least the rest of you have accomplished something with your lives. Morgan here is still living in that tiny apartment in San Francisco, working on her little computer hobby that's going nowhere. 32 years old and still a complete failure." The table went silent. My siblings looked down at their plates. My father cleared his throat uncomfortably. And I felt my phone vibrate in my pocket with a message from my lawyer: "Google's ready to sign. Get here in the next hour or we lose the deal." I stood up, grabbed my coat, and walked out without a word. My mother had no idea I was leaving Christmas dinner to finalize a $50 million acquisition of the AI company I'd spent 5 years building in secret. Let me back up and explain how we got here. My name is Morgan Hayes. I'm 32 years old, and I grew up in a family that measured success in very traditional terms. My father, William Hayes, is a corporate attorney at a prestigious Boston firm. My mother, Patricia, comes from old money and has never worked a day in her life but considers herself an expert on what constitutes real success. My older brother, Christopher, is a surgeon. My younger sister, Amanda, is a corporate VP at a financial services company. Both live in Boston, both married with kids, both fitting perfectly into the life my parents envisioned. Then there's me. The middle child. The one who moved to San Francisco 8 years ago to work in tech. The disappointment. I'd always been interested in computers. As a kid, I taught myself to code. In high school, I built websites for local businesses. At MIT, I majored in computer science and AI. I graduated with honors, got job offers from multiple companies, and chose to work at a startup in Silicon Valley. My parents were horrified. "You went to MIT to work at some no-name company in California," my mother had said. "Christopher is saving lives. Amanda is climbing the corporate ladder at a Fortune 500 company. And you're going to work for a startup that will probably fail?" The startup did fail. After 2 years, it folded. I moved to another startup. That one lasted 3 years before being acquired, and my equity was worth about $80,000. Not life-changing money, but it gave me a cushion. By then, I'd learned a lot about what worked and what didn't in tech. I'd learned about AI and machine learning. I'd learned about problems that needed solving. And I'd started building something of my own. 5 years ago, I founded Nexus AI with my co-founder Ryan Chen, who I'd met at the second startup. We built an AI platform that helped companies automate complex customer service workflows, not just chatbots, but genuinely intelligent systems that could handle nuanced customer problems. We started in my tiny one-bedroom apartment in San Francisco's Mission District. I coded 18 hours a day. Ryan handled business development. We lived on ramen and coffee and the dream that we were building something that mattered. We didn't tell many people what we were doing. The tech world is small, and stealth mode helped us avoid competition while we refined our product. But it also meant my family had no idea what I was actually working on. To them, I was just Morgan, still trying to make it in tech. Still working on little computer projects. Still not a real success like Christopher or Amanda. Every time I came home for holidays, the questions were the same. Are you still at that startup? When are you going to get a real job? Have you thought about moving back to Boston and settling down? Don't you want to get married and have kids like your siblings? I'd try to explain that I was building something, that it was going well, that I had investors and customers and growth. But they'd glaze over. Tech startups weren't real to them. They couldn't touch them, couldn't brag about them at cocktail parties, couldn't understand them. So they dismissed them. Dismissed me. Last year's Christmas had been particularly brutal. I just closed our Series B funding round, $15 million from a major venture capital firm. It was a huge milestone, validation that what we were building mattered. I'd tried to share the news. We just raised $15 million for my company. My mother's response: "That's nice, dear. But it's not your money, is it? It's investor money. You're still not actually making anything." My father: Let us know when you have a real exit. Until then, it's all just paper gains. Amanda, I got promoted to VP this year. Real salary, real benefits, real career progression. Not this startup gambling. I'd gone back to San Francisco feeling hollow. But also determined. I'd show them. I'd build something so successful they couldn't dismiss it. Over the past year, Nexus AI had exploded. We'd grown from 12 employees to 60. Our revenue had gone from $200,000 a month to $2 million. We were profitable. Major companies were using our platform, Fortune 500 companies, tech giants, enterprises around the world. And 6 months ago, Google reached out about acquiring us. The negotiations took months. Back and forth on valuation, on terms, on what would happen to our team. Ryan and I wanted to make sure our employees were taken care of, that the technology would be used in ways we believed in. Finally, 3 weeks ago, we reached an agreement. Google would acquire Nexus AI for $50 million. After splitting with Ryan and paying back investors, my share would be $18 million. $18 million. At 32 years old. From the little computer hobby my mother loved to mock. The deal was scheduled to close the week of Christmas. I'd told my family I might need to work during the holidays, that I had important business to handle. They'd rolled their eyes. Always with the work excuses, my mother had said. I'd flown to Boston for Christmas anyway. The signing was scheduled for December 26th. I figured I could do Christmas Day with family, then fly back to San Francisco early the next morning for the closing. But Google's legal team had run into some last-minute issues with the paperwork. They needed to close before the end of the year for tax reasons. The new signing was scheduled for Christmas evening, 8 p.m. Pacific Time, 11 p.m. Eastern. I got the message from my lawyer at 6 p.m. Eastern, right as we were sitting down for Christmas dinner. Google's ready to sign. Get here in the next hour or we lose the deal. I had 2 choices, stay at Christmas dinner with my family who thought I was a failure, or catch the next flight to San Francisco to close the biggest deal of my life. The decision should have been easy. But part of me still wanted my parents' approval. Still wanted them to see me as successful. Still wanted to be valued the way Christopher and Amanda were valued. Then my mother stood up with her wine glass. Made her announcement about how everyone else had accomplished something. Called me a complete failure in front of the entire extended family, aunts, uncles, cousins, everyone. And something in me just broke. Not in a sad way. In a liberating way. I was done trying to prove myself to people who would never see me. Done waiting for approval from people who'd already decided I wasn't worth their respect. Done making myself small to fit into their narrow definition of success. I stood up, grabbed my coat from the hall closet. My mother called after me, "Morgan, where are you going?" "We're in the middle of dinner." "I have to work," I said, not turning around. "On Christmas? That's absurd." "Sit down. I have a meeting I can't miss." "What meeting could possibly be more important than Christmas with your family?" I stopped at the door. Turned back. Looked at my mother, at my father, at my siblings, at the extended family all watching this scene unfold. "One that's worth $50 million, I said. "Merry Christmas." I called an Uber to Boston Logan, booked the next flight to San Francisco on my phone in the car. There was a red-eye leaving at 9:30 p.m. I'd land at 1 a.m. Pacific Time. The signing was at 8 p.m. Pacific, I'd already missed it by the time I'd land. But then my lawyer called. "Morgan, where are you?" "Boston. Family emergency. I'm getting on a flight but I won't make it in time. Can you sign remotely? We can set up a video call, use digital signatures. Will Google accept that? Let me ask. Hold on. 5 minutes of the longest wait of my life. Then, they'll accept it. We need you on a video call in 30 minutes. Can you find somewhere quiet?" I looked around the Uber. "I'll make it work." I directed the driver to a hotel near the airport, ran inside, paid for a conference room for 2 hours. Set up my laptop. At exactly 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern, I joined the video call. On the screen, the Google acquisition team, their lawyers, my lawyer, Ryan calling in from his family Christmas in Seattle. Everyone in business casual except me, still in the sweater I'd worn to Christmas dinner. "Ms. Hayes, thank you for making time on Christmas evening," the Google VP said. "Wouldn't miss it." We went through the documents. Page by page. Signature by signature. The whole process took 90 minutes. At 12:30 a.m. Eastern Time, on December 26, the deal closed. Nexus AI was now part of Google. I was now worth $18 million. I sat in that conference room and didn't feel triumph or vindication or excitement. I just felt tired. And free. I flew back to San Francisco the next morning. Told my team the news. They'd known the acquisition was coming, but not when it would close. Everyone celebrated. We'd all made it. We'd built something real, something valuable, something that mattered. My phone had 37 missed calls and 62 text messages. I ignored them for 3 days. Finally, I read them. "My mother, Morgan, what you said at dinner was extremely rude. You owe everyone an apology. My father, your mother is very upset. You embarrassed her in front of the family. Whatever this meeting was, it wasn't worth walking out on Christmas. Christopher, Mom's crying. Was that really necessary? Amanda, really mature, Morgan. Walking out of Christmas dinner over some work thing. Not one of them asked what the meeting was about. Not one of them seemed to consider that maybe, just maybe, I'd been telling the truth about it being important." On December 29, the acquisition was announced publicly. Google's press release went out. Tech news sites picked it up. "Google acquires Nexus AI for $50 million, was the headline on TechCrunch. Within an hour, my phone exploded. My mother called. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. "Morgan, we saw the news. Is this real? You sold your company to Google? Why didn't you tell us? Call me back immediately." My father called. Left a message, "Morgan, your mother and I need to talk to you about this Google situation. We had no idea you were involved in something this significant. We need to discuss financial planning, tax implications. Call us." Christopher texted, "Holy shit. Is this for real? You're actually rich now?" Amanda, Mom's freaking out. She feels terrible about what she said at Christmas. You should call her. I didn't call any of them. Instead, I posted on social media for the first time in months, tagging the Nexus AI team. Incredibly proud to announce that Nexus AI has been acquired by Google. 5 years ago, Ryan and I started building this in my tiny San Francisco apartment. Today, our AI platform serves millions of users worldwide. To my amazing team, we did this together. To everyone who believed in us, thank you. To everyone who didn't, thanks for the motivation. The post went viral. Not because I was anyone famous, but because the story resonated. Underestimated founder proves doubters wrong. Classic Silicon Valley narrative. My college friends saw it. My old colleagues. People I hadn't talked to in years reached out to congratulate me. One of my MIT professors sent an email saying he'd always known I'd do something remarkable. But my family? They didn't congratulate me on social media. They called and texted privately, wanting to talk, wanting to understand, wanting, I suspected, to be part of the success now that it was real and public. I waited a week. Let them sit with it. Let them think about Christmas dinner. About calling me a complete failure. About dismissing my work for years. Then I called my mother. "Morgan. Oh, thank God. I've been so worried. You called me a complete failure at Christmas dinner. In front of the entire family. I didn't mean it that way. I was just frustrated that you never share what you're actually doing. I tried to share. Every time I came home, I tried to tell you about my company. You didn't want to hear it. You wanted me to be a doctor like Christopher or a VP like Amanda. You wanted me to fit into your idea of success. That's not fair. You told everyone I was wasting my life on a computer hobby. Do you know what I was doing while you said that? I was getting a message that Google wanted to finalize a $50 million acquisition of my company. The company you dismissed. The work you mocked. Silence. I'm sorry, she finally said. I didn't know. You didn't know because you never asked. You never took me seriously. You never considered that maybe I knew what I was doing. You're right. I was wrong. Can we move past this? I don't know, Mom. Can you? Can you actually respect what I do? Or are you only interested now because there's a dollar amount attached? More silence. Then, what do you want from me? I want you to understand that I don't need your approval anymore. I spent years trying to prove myself to you. To Dad. To Christopher and Amanda. And it was never enough because you'd already decided I was a failure. But I'm not a failure. I built something real. Something valuable. And I did it without you. Morgan. I have to go, Mom. I have meetings. I hung up. Over the next few months, my family tried various approaches. My father wanted to give me financial advice. I hired my own wealth management team. Amanda wanted to celebrate my success. I was busy with the Google integration. Christopher wanted to invest in my next venture. I wasn't ready to think about that yet. They all wanted to be part of the win now that it was public and validated. But none of them acknowledged the years of dismissal. None of them apologized for treating my work as illegitimate. 6 months after the acquisition, I went back to Boston for a family wedding. My cousin's daughter was getting married, and I'd promised her I'd be there. I walked into the reception and immediately felt the weight of everyone's stares. I'd been in the news. I'd been profiled in tech magazines. I was the successful one now. My mother approached me cautiously. Morgan, you look wonderful. Thank you. Your father and I have been talking. We want to make things right between us. How do you plan to do that? We thought, maybe we could visit you in San Francisco? See your life there? Understand what you do better? It was something. Not an apology, but an acknowledgement that they'd been wrong. I don't live in San Francisco anymore, I said. I bought a house in Palo Alto. But sure. You can visit. They came a month later. I showed them my new house, a beautiful 4-bedroom in the Stanford area. Showed them the Nexus AI office at Google where our team was building the next generation of the platform. Introduced them to Ryan and some of our key employees. My mother cried when she saw the office. I had no idea it was like this. That you'd built something so real. It was always real, Mom. You just didn't see it. My father pulled me aside. I was wrong about you. About your choices. I thought you were being reckless. Gambling with your future. But you were building your future. I'm sorry I didn't trust you. It was the first real apology I'd gotten from either of them. Things didn't magically become perfect after that. Years of dismissal don't disappear with one conversation. But slowly, carefully, we started rebuilding our relationship on new terms. Terms where they respected what I did, even if they didn't fully understand it. Where they asked questions instead of making assumptions. Where I was allowed to be successful in a way that didn't look like Christopher's or Amanda's success. A year after the acquisition, I started my next company. This time, I told my parents about it from the beginning. This time, when I explained what we were building, they listened. Not because I'd proven myself with a $50 million exit. But because they'd finally learned that I was worth listening to all along. My name is Morgan Hayes. I'm 33 years old. Last Christmas, my mother called me a complete failure at dinner. I walked out to sign a $50 million deal with Google. But this story isn't really about the money. It's about the moment I stopped trying to prove myself to people who'd never see me. It's about understanding that their inability to recognize my worth wasn't a reflection of my value, it was a reflection of their limitations. My mother didn't call me a failure because I was failing. She called me a failure because my success didn't look like what she expected success to look like. The best revenge isn't proving them wrong. It's building something so real, so undeniable, that their opinions become irrelevant. I don't need my parents' approval anymore. But I'll accept their respect, now that they've finally learned to give it. And next Christmas? I'll be at dinner. Not because I have something to prove, but because I don't. Because the girl who walked out of Christmas dinner to sign a deal? She's gone. In her place is a woman who knows exactly what she's worth. And it has nothing to do with a dollar amount. It's about vision, persistence, and the courage to build something meaningful even when the people who are supposed to love you most can't see the value until everyone else does. I built Nexus AI in spite of my family's doubts, not because of them. And that made it mine in a way they can never touch. That Christmas dinner was the last time I needed anyone's permission to be successful. And walking out that door? Best decision I ever made.